I need to go back to Florida. I tell you.
Welcome. This is the Town Council Budget Work Session number 2. We had the first session last night, and the date is Tuesday, March 4th, 2014, and the time is 6:37. If we could please all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Tonight's discussion revolves around the 2014-2015 budget, and we'll be talking about the Recreation Department accounts, the Peacedale Office Building, the Neighborhood Guild, and the Senior Services Fund. Then we will move on to Public Services account, which is water, wastewater, and solid waste funds, and then if there's any other matters of interest for the council before we adjourn. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Alford. Thank you.
At last night's session, council asked for information relative to when the last time increases had been provided with the probate judge. Dale reviewed that today. It was for July 1st of 2006. It went from 3,000 to 4,000. The question relative to town council, the last approval on town council salary or stipend increases was in 1989 with an effective start date of July 1st of 1991. Planning board stipend is $20 a meeting now, and that's been in effect since July 1 of 2000. Zoning board, we believe, was also the same July 1 of 2000, and that's at $20 per attended meeting. It's not per meeting, but meetings actually attended. I've given you the same sheet that was provided last evening, I believe, by Carol on probate judge, and I've given you the sheet that I advised was available on council president and salaries for the council's review. So I guess that will be of use for you in terms of any amendments that is approved by the council. This evening, I'd like to take things out of order. I'd like to do John's accounts first, and then we'll move on. I indicated to Terry that I probably wouldn't see her starting until 7 or 7:30, so she was going to come in a little bit later. If we can start out, I'd like to start out with the narrative for the Public Works Administration, and that'll start us out on page 42. Page 30. And on the detail,
GF narrative.
GF 11. There is not much change in the Public Services Administration account, just as there weren't. Our budget is a steady state as far as no changes in the level of service and no changes as far as personnel. The contractual relationship with our employee groups within this unit would be a 2% salary increase, as they are with each of the municipal bargaining units and the unorganized group. Administration provides the general overview of all of our public services programs. And again, this is a department that oversees streets and highways and the 3 utility funds that we operate. Administration and Public Services also provides direct assistance to each of the municipal departments on any type of capital construction project, bid development, or specification review. Are there any questions on that account? If there are none, we can move forward to the Streets and Highway Division. The Streets and Highway Division, we're recommending a budget of $2,303,000. It's about a $35,500 increase over the current year program, or I should say this current year restated program. The funding in this department provides for all of the infrastructure improvements that are made within the town's right-of-way system and all of the equipment that's necessary to maintain the road system. The largest account here outside of the salary account, and the salary account shows it $769,000, is the same number of positions that we have had over the last several years, which is really 3 positions down from what we had going back several years ago. So we have not proposed increasing the working staff within the Streets and Highway for the 14-15 year. It's a 2% salary increase for those accounts. And again, all benefits for health, dental, life, as well as other costs such as FICA are included in this account. The largest other account here is the professional services account. And each year I go over with what is in professional services. Professional services is a combination of all of the different third-party vendors that are secured in doing the improvements that are necessary within the right-of-way. That includes the crack sealing, road resurfacing, or the stone seal program, sidewalk replacements, and road striping. For next year, there's approximately $340,000. Of that total, $370,000 that would be in those infrastructure-associated activities. This account also is provided as a relief valve when we're dealing with severe winter storms, as we have this year. In fact, the winter storm activity will require approximately $60,000 in money being seeded from this account in the current year to accommodate costs associated with sand and salt that is being acquired. We will purchase enough salt to have on hand so that it will be available by the end of the fiscal year, so that it will be ready for at least one storm in fiscal 14-15. So we're expecting that we'll overspend what's been budgeted for materials and supplies necessary for winter storm maintenance, as I say, by about $60,000. And that will, there'll be budget transfers that'll be directed from that, the existing year's budget, which was set at $385,000. As you can see in the restated budget, it was reduced to $362,000. The reason being that with the we had major storm damage associated with trees, and we had to move money from this professional services account into the tree warden account to deal with the removal of several trees based on, John, what storm was that from? The Nemo. So we've moved those monies from that account. And in fact, we've maintained, that's why we're seeing a reduction from 385 down to 370. We've maintained the money in the tree account for next year, because we're seeing more and more money that's necessary with third-party services on dealing with tree damage or tree removals.
What line item is the sand and salt in, Steve? Is that chemicals and gases, or? Oh, it is?
Chemical and gases.
And how are we doing? We have enough? Don't laugh.
got one load, we could go Monday. Haven't seen any since. Probably get some, probably next week if that.
How about the potholes, John? What are we doing about some of those larger ones that?
What is your correspondence with the state in terms
John, is that mic on?
What is your correspondence in terms of, with state? Because there's, I know you have no control over that, but certainly we have to be in contact with the state for the state roads, and there are certainly issues on Route 1 and the state roads. I don't know what our liability is there and what our contact is.
Well, the state is responsible for potholes on state roads. If we do get a complaint at my office, we do call the state, and we also ask the resident to call them as well. So we do pass that along as soon as we receive those to DOT.
Okay.
John?
Finally,
Jim?
John, we just talked about load-in. Does the state ration prorate those to all the cities and towns, or is that our order, our money? And so we got
That's our salt that we purchase. I think when the state is, I say the state, I mean the whole state as its entirety is waiting for this load. I understand it was coming from Chile, I guess. So once that arrives up in Providence, International Salt has the state contract for the DOT and for the municipality. So I think they're gonna try to, distribute it fairly and equitably among DOT plus the municipalities. I think at this point, the only good thing at this point of the year is, the sun's high in the sky, daylight savings time starts, so it doesn't change the amount of time that the sun's up in the air. But we do get that benefit of the solar effect that helps. It's just, we're concerned more now about anything that melts during the day and then refreezes at night. That's the problem we're dealing with now.
John, my question is, with the unfunded Phase 2 stormwater regulations and the total maximum daily loads, is that worthwhile to really reach out to the legislators with, the stress that it's putting on the town?
Well, as the council recalls, we are moving forward with the first TMDL for Narrow River. That's still in the study phase. If there's any good news, I guess the only possible good news is we've had some recent meetings with Fish and Wildlife. They got a bunch of grant money to do habitat restoration, and we've been meeting with them monthly to see if we can get some grant money for them to do one of the TMDL improvements in Narrow River. But that's only taking care of one of a very big, a very big pile of TMDLs, which, again, my frustration is once we're done, we're still not gonna meet water quality standards. I think that's the frustrating part. And, I don't even know if we're gonna come close to meeting water quality standards. But we still have to check off the box and go through that process.
You may also want to advise that within the capital program, there's dollars set aside on a yearly basis within the road improvement capital reserve for TMDL management. We set that up, I think this is our third year that we're looking at that, and we will continue to spend those dollars. What we're attempting to do is to demonstrate a good faith effort in terms of addressing, yet at the same time advising the state that addressing all of the TMDL issues that have been put forward for South Kingstown is not something that we are comfortable in terms of even looking at. Because the main concern, as John has said repeatedly, is we can spend an awful lot of money and still not obtain the results necessary in terms of water quality improvement.
Thank you.
If there's no questions, we can move to tree management. As I mentioned previously, we had budgeted $33,450 in the 2013-14 year. We had considerable expenses incurred after the storm, And what we moved is money into this account from the Streets and Highway Division. What we're looking to do, because we're seeing that on a yearly basis, there is more and more money being spent within our tree canopy, is to include a $20,000 item, which will provide John with greater flexibility in awards of contract for tree removal, or if there's a hurricane or serious storm where there's tree damage, have at least an opening number to be able to start to address those concerns. If there's major problems, then what we would again look to would be the Streets and Highway Division, or we would look to the fund contingency, because on a yearly basis, we schedule $65,000 for those type of potential problems that can't be identified during the time that budget development is occurring. So with the tree program, it's a negative $2,400, but it's actually a $20,000 increase over what you as a council saw last year when the budget was put forward to you. The street lighting account, we're looking at an $11,000 increase in the cost associated with being able to deal with the entire lighting network. It's important to note that on the state highways that are signed highways that the state maintains, the cost, so on Route 1, where the lights are located at the cutoff, those are not paid for through the town. We would pay for them on many of the state roads where it hasn't been lights being added over, I guess, the last 15 years. But we have spent a considerable amount of time with Public Services in evaluating all of the lighting system, changing the type of lighting employed as a means of reducing the energy charge and also the wattage on the system. It's a collaborative program between the police department and Public Services. And what we also find is if we have demands for new streetlights, we will look at that demand and try to find an existing light that can be relocated rather than to expand the number of units that the town is responsible for at this time.
Steve, the town parking lot in back of All That Matters, is that, were any lights linked into the bike path, the intermodal facility?
The parking lot, yes, we pay for the lighting there. We pay for the lighting that's on the boardwalk behind Main Street. All of those, where on Main Street, we're not paying for the aerial lights, we're paying for the period lights that are there. So there's a difference where both the state and the town are dealing with electrical costs there.
Thank you.
But Eller, I think your question also was the new comfort station will incorporate,
Right, we were talking about trying to get some additional lighting back there, and
that's
that
going to happen, that's
that
part
is
of
going to happen. Okay. And that won't be any lights that will need to move from other places?
Those will be metered through the meter on the comfort station.
Okay. And is there any lighting back there now, John?
I don't believe so. In fact, I
None.
think that was somewhat
pitch
problematic
black.
with the DEM permit because you can't have the lights shining on the river. We had to make sure the lights
Oh, wow.
shine towards Main Street because of the ecosystem.
Wow. Never realized that. Thank you. The Light of the Silvery Moon. I guess that song doesn't fit.
They said if we put the lights on the river, there'd be another TMDL.
Oh, no.
If we move on, what I want to do now is to jump to the tab on the water fund. Now, the council spent last week in a work session with us going over the new rate structure that's being proposed. Obviously, we're not asking the council to approve any rate increase last week, but what we wanted to do is to explain the new methodology that is being proposed for consideration. Just in terms of general background, the town is required under state statute to revise its billing structure. The state is requiring that all water systems have a quarterly billing system. With us attempting to go from the single bill to a quarterly billing system, we employed the services of a consultant to look at both the needs of the water system, revenue needs of the water system, and how to best provide an equitable distribution in a rate base that would generate the dollars that are necessary and also promote conservation of water. The system that was proposed was to establish a system whereby there would be an allowance on a quarterly basis of water. Anything used in excess of that allowance would be billed at an excess rate. The proposal that he put forward would have a base fee that would be at $192, and then would have 1,250 cubic feet of water available within that base fee per quarter. Use in excess of the 1,250 cubic feet up to 2,500 cubic feet would be billed out at a rate of $3.25 per 100 cubic feet. Essentially, for every 1,000 cubic feet of water that was excess, someone would pay $32.50. The water in a quarter in excess of 2,500 cubic feet would be billed at $3.75 per 100 cubic feet, or $37.50 per 1,000. And just to make sure people are aware, 1,000 cubic feet of water is equal to 7,800 and 7,480 gallons. The system that he was promoting would provide us with the necessary revenue stream and looked out over a 5-year horizon, assuming that costs would continue to increase based on cost of living, and also looked at what the cost of water that we purchase wholesale from United Water would be were the rate increase approved by the PUC. As we noted the other night, next year's budget has been framed around the rate study that was presented last week, but it was also framed around a 30% increase in wholesale water costs. That 30% rate increase from United, if it were approved by the PUC, would require us to spend an additional $50,000 in water acquisition. In addition, last year we had difficulty with 3 non-acute violations on total coliform findings in our water supply. This necessitated us hiring a second consultant to do a portable water quality study that's currently looking at determining what causes those violations on the coliform, and also what remediation actions are possible to prevent them from occurring in the future. Those improvements may include upwards to $80,000 in equipment installations as a means of providing protection on the water quality. If those requirements occur, and the requirements of the $50,000 increase on the water, there's a sizable rate increase that's necessary. If they don't occur, what we want to look at, hopefully in either late May or early June, is a proposal to review that water budget from what it's currently presented to determine whether or not the expenditure statement and the revenue statement can be adjusted to reduce what the potential impact would be on the rate structure. As I also mentioned last week, we would also be changing the methodology as far as billing for excess water use. Current system with a single billing per year has the billing they call it in arrears. So what we would be billing for is the excess water use that occurred between July 1st of 2013 and June 30th of 2014 would normally be billed in our September, October bill, and people would be required to pay for that excess within a 30-day period. With the new quarterly billing system, we will be billing based on the prior 3 months' actual use. So we will be billing on the July 2014 through September 2014 actual water use that was excessive or over the 1,250 cubic feet of water that is in that base allowance. That means that we've got a year's worth of excess water that still needs to be billed. What we're proposing to do is, in advance of instituting the new rate system, with billing occurring in October of 2014, we would bill in July of 2014 for all excess water use that occurred in the fiscal 13-14 period. That way, we would collect that $160,000 that would be held in retained earnings and would be used either for future equipment needs or to pay down costs associated with the East Matunic line loop that needs to be considered. We have grant applications that are currently pending on the installation of the water line loop that will get it off of East Matunic State Beach right away. We're hopeful that one or two of those grants, if we get them, will substantially reduce and minimize what the cost would be to the residents for that line installation. In terms of update, the consulting engineer on the design of the water line installation has completed most of the design. We are looking during the month of March, this month, for us to do actual borings along the pathway so that we can, in putting bidding documents together, be able to advise potential contractors as to what dig conditions they're going to encounter. By us doing the borings, it provides for a better cost estimate from the contractors, because it's a known commodity as to whether there's rock, there's ledge, there's gravel, or there's sand. So that work will be done, and hopefully by September, we would be ready to go out to a formal bid on the installation. Were the dollars available? Right now, there's two grants, one with FEMA and one through community development that we have applied for. We hope to have word back on those grants within the next 60 to 90 days. So that also plays into what do we look at in terms of the rate structure. But the existing budget for the water fund is based on that water rate study that was provided. It generates more revenue than what we need for the proposed 2014-15 year. The budget for the water fund for the 2014-15 year is, I believe, $1,057,000. That and the revenue that would be generated from that rate structure, as proposed by the consultant, would generate about $42,000 more than we would need. The reason that his rate structure would provide that great of a yield is because he's looking to provide a higher yield in year 1 and 2 of the rate structure being in place, so that if costs continue to increase in years 3, 4, and 5, it would not require a rate increase because we would have had retained earnings to offset that. I'm not a believer in that type of rate structure. My concern would be that if you are collecting money up front and then having to use it to pay in latter years, when you go to set the new rate structure, you're starting in a deficit, operating deficit position. So what I would rather see is us to be more in line with a 2 to 3 year need statement and have a better idea of what that need is going to be. Because I'm not sure if we see the 30% increase, we'll see $50,000 in cost. Remember that they applied for a 43% increase. So that 43% increase would push that up closer to 70. So we need to have a better understanding. We want to see the budget adopted as presented, and then we will ask the council to amend where appropriate and to set the rate structure in late May or early June. If we try to do it too early from that, we're going to have to be overly conservative, and I don't think that that's in our best interest. Yes, Meg?
We've discussed this during the past year, and I know the water issue has been something that's been ongoing for us, but John, I don't know if you or Steve would be more prudent to answer this, but there is, we talked about the residual runoff, and my question again will be to you is, we pay the piper on that, I'm assuming, and how will that correction ever be fixed? Because there are leakages, and that's something we need to address, I think, because the runoff is costing the town money.
Yeah, what I can say is it's called unaccounted for water, and it's the differential, a delta between what we purchase and what we sell. For example, Middlebridge, we focus first on Middlebridge. Now, there's leak detection that we've done. We've done leak detection 3 times on Middlebridge. I think the last time we found a couple leaks, and we still have a relatively, too high unaccounted for water. I think anything above 0 is too high. Realistically, us trying to get that down, all the customers are metered, so we know it's not, from unmetered water what we're selling. So it's either going to be, again, leaks in the system, and at this point, I don't know if that's the case, because we would see, the mains are down 4 feet. If we had a leak of any magnitude, it rises to the surface. So we're still focused in on trying to look at the wholesale meters from United and see if there's a deviation there.
So how do we hold them accountable is my question,
Well, I think
guess.
that's something that we're going to have to work out with United. I think the problem with a lot of these wholesale meters is you're asking them to do a lot, because they can read at 700 or 1,000 gallons a minute, and then you need them to read down at like 10 gallons a minute. So it's that level of accuracy, and we've talked to different manufacturers at this point to see if there's another type of meter technology that's available that'll give us that range from very low flow to very high flow. So that's something that we're still working diligently on. I don't have an answer yet, but we're trying to solve it.
What's the amount of water that is not being accounted for?
It varies. I mean, it varies from a low of 7 or 8% up to the high teens. The state goal is 10%. They want you at 10% or lower. So we want to get down to at least, again, I'd like to see it be 0. I think it's an unrealistic number.
Yeah.
Is that possible? 0?
I don't know if
Probably
it'd be
not.
possible.
But I know we've been talking about this for the past year, so I'd like to see some resolve, or,
Yeah, we have, again, we've done leak detection. Middlebridge is a very finite system. That was our goal. Let's at least get Middlebridge down to a low number, and we still, after 3 leak detection surveys, having a company come in, 2 found no leaks, 1 found with the older technology, there's new technology available, the new technology found no leaks. So we had another contractor come in with old technology, and they found it with the old technology, and they were leaking service lines. But, a little leak over a long period of time adds up.
so do you, I hate to put you on the spot here, do you know what that's costing us as a town with?
It's probably in the order, I'm gonna say probably, 20,000 a year, somewhere around there.
Sorry, I didn't mean to put
No,
you on the
that's
spot,
okay.
I'm just,
No, it's
we've been
very
talking about it, so.
difficult. And the other problem that we have is our pipe is non-metallic. If it was metallic pipe, the leaks would be, if it is in fact coming from the pipes, it would be easy to find, because metal pipe transfers sound a lot better than non-metallic pipe. And in Middlebridge, for example, even in South Shore, a lot of the pipe is under the groundwater table. So between it being non-metallic pipe and it's nearly impossible to find. So we are working diligently, but I wish I had a silver bullet and a
Oh,
quick
no, I
answer for you,
appreciate your
but
time
it's
doing
not
that.
an easy solution.
I think it's got to be clear that we're taking as many steps as we can. We're just frustrated with the results that we're coming up with. But having a high water table where we can't see if there was a leak, that it would be showing up. We've had the consultants in and done the 2 tests, particularly in Middlebridge, and we're not finding it. That's why I think that the next target is whether or not the meter is in fact accurate as far as the wholesale purchasing that we're doing based on a meter. And that's the next thing that we've got to take a look at. But recognize too that the cost of repair or reinstallation of lines, many of those lines go back to the early 60s when there were 4 different or 5 different water systems in South Shore. And they were joined together as a single water system in the late 1960s. So we're dealing with a very old plant to begin with a high water table. So the only way that you could clearly be able to solve your problem or know that your problem isn't with leak, but rather with metering, would be to replace the pipelines, which would be outrageously expensive. So, we've got to look at the metering, I think, as the next issue. But understand there's always going to be unaccounted for water, because every time we do hydrant maintenance, or the fire department uses the hydrants for any purpose, there's a great volume of water that's going to be used. When we clean the lines and we blow the fire hydrants as a way of cleaning out any of the iron buildup, that also is lost water that is part of what we're buying that's being expended. So, as John says, in a perfect world, we'd like to see an 8 to 10%. In the real world, with a system as old as what we're dealing with in South Shore, and some of it may have been installed without a lot of construction background, there could be potential issues there that we're just not aware of at this point, but we continue to try to look for it.
Thank you.
Any other questions on water fund at this point? If not, we can jump to the wastewater fund on page WW1. I think the most important thing on the wastewater program is there really aren't any changes in what we're looking to do. We're still processing around 921 million gallons of wastewater a year. We're just about at 50% of the plant capacity. The plant can handle about a 5 million gallon a day flow, and we're averaging around 2.5 million gallons a day between the 3 regional partners with South Kingstown, URI, and Narragansett. We're looking at an operations and a cost of operation for the total program going up $211,000, which is about a 6.6% increase. A major portion of that increase is associated with a $79,000 increase in defined capital improvements, which were approved in the council's capital budget earlier this year. Our operational expenses are up about 122 of that $212,000. From a revenue perspective, we're projecting about a 5.5% increase in revenue, but we are not projecting any rate increases for the wastewater system outside of an increase in the cost of our septage management. So there will be no rate increase for the users of the system. I want to draw your attention to page 4, because I think page 4 of the message is one of the key issues that we're going to be facing over the next several years. Our plant went online in 1977 to the 1978 year. So we're looking at this point at a plant that, for all in fact, is in excess of 35, 38 years old. A great deal of those components are going to need replacement or reconstruction. When we looked at the 2013-2014 year, there were 2 main projects that were in the capital budget. One was a roofing project that was estimated at $40,000. Once we got in and took a look at the roof, we found that the segment of roof that was planned to be removed and replaced, that it was the entire roof that was going to be necessary based on what was found once they did the exploratory work. The same held true that we were looking at a facility, we're dealing with our headworks or the facility's influent receiving structure, where we were looking at just a basic renovation. What we found once we got in there is that because of the caustic condition of the process that goes on within that headworks building, that the building was going to need to be replaced in its entirety. Now, this is where the three lines come in from our users, whether it's from the Narragansett line or the South Kingstown / URI lines, and come into the buildings. And what we're looking at is that project, instead of being a $30,000 cost, is going to require us to spend $250,000. Now, on a yearly basis, we budget for depreciation, which means that we have retained earnings to be able to accommodate these type of changes. Yet the difficulty comes in terms of trying to estimate what some of these costs are going to be until we do the exploration. So what we're looking at is a budget that started out at $344,000, that we're looking at a cost that's going to be closer to $800,000. Now, South Kingstown's share of that is only $258,000. But it means that we've also got to deal with Narragansett and URI as far as adjusting costs. I think as the council is aware, the billing for operational costs is based on the flows going through our system. So Narragansett pays its proportionate share, so too does URI, and so too does South Kingstown. When we look at equipment replacement or facility enhancements or improvements, we look at what the use factor has been from each of those users, and that's how we come up with the distribution. John has been in contact with the other two principals as to these increased costs, but we've got a lot of work that has to be done still in the 13-14 year, and 14-15 is also an aggressive schedule as far as capital improvements. So when we look at the size of our program for next year, it's growing because we're looking at a good deal of reconstruction or replacement of existing equipment, or in cases of generators and pumps, those replacements. The equipment has been well maintained over the years and certainly has outlived its expected life based on the quality care that our staff has provided. But what we are going to be looking at is a number of projects that, unless we do the exploratory work before they enter the capital program, we're going to have some surprises, as we saw in the past year. I'm not sure, John, if you want to address some of the issues that we're looking at.
I mean, I guess I'll, by virtue of example, from a project that we completed, Silver Lake Generator. I mean, well-maintained, we exercise it every week, I mean, just, well taken care of, but, for example, in the generator end of it, the stator is the stationary part, I mean, the wires get embrittled over time. I mean, there's nothing you can do about that. So what we're starting to see is some of these projects, the equipment is seeing their useful life, even though they've been well-maintained, and because of that, by virtue, we've got to get in and do more work than we anticipate. So, again, short of doing the engineering well in advance, we try to come up with budgetary figures, and these are two projects, the headworks and the roof, where, we're not even close, for lack of better terms.
The rate structure is shown on page WW5 of the narrative, and you'll see that the residential rates are staying the same at the 229. There's about 5,656 units that are expected to be paying toward that. We're experiencing on the South Kingstown portion of the system about a 50 resident increase per year in terms of new accounts. And what we're looking at is that the overall rate structure will produce about $1.6 million. The excess billing, which is excess billing on on wastewater, is over 10,000 cubic feet of materials, and we use United Water's rates readings for their meter readings to be able to do our billing on wastewater, because 99% of that system is on United Water, because it's in the Wakefield, Kingston proper area. So it's either Kingston Water or United Water that's providing the services. We are looking at a increase from $60 per 1,000 gallons delivered of septage to the plant up to $67. That increase is based on us actually taking a look at what the true cost of process is on being able to handle that material. This will be our first increase on the septage, I think, in 3 years. And I think it went up from $55 3 years ago. We still will be contributing about $4,300 out of our general fund to the wastewater program for the on-site wastewater management program. That program addresses the 6,300 septic systems that exist in town that are not on the conventional sewer system. And what that provides for is the online inspection system that the town uses, where on an annual basis, we do a certain share of those 63 units as far as review to make sure that they are being properly maintained. The page WW6 provides an explanation on the wastewater management program that we have had in operation now for several years. And again, what that system does is it requires an inspection. If the inspection finds that there's a cesspool, it requires the replacement of that cesspool within a 5-year period or within 12 months of the time that the property is sold. John, any comments you want to make on that aspect?
The on-site wastewater program is, every single property has either, one, had their system inspected and it passed, two, had a cesspool, and the cesspool, we issue a notice of violation that's recorded against the property. We also issue an NOV for a failed septic system, and we issue an NOV for a failure to inspect, and we kind of suspect the people who don't inspect, they got a cesspool and they're gonna get the NOV anyway. So all properties now have either been inspected or have an NOV encumbered against them. And for us to release that NOV, they have to satisfy the NOV by either fixing the septic system or replacing it if it's a cesspool.
So I just want to go back to WW4, where we were talking about the roof repairs and the headworks repairs. So are we replacing the entire building? Is that what you said? Are we?
For the entire roof, yes. For the headworks, it's an enclosure over the headworks that controls some of the odors. That's where the influent comes in from southeast Narragansett. There's more corrosion inside than we anticipated, and there's also a mechanical screening unit that failed. So that is going to be rehabilitated in addition to more extensive repairs inside the headworks building.
So when you say we budgeted $40,000 for the roof repairs, that would be for the SK, Narragansett, and URI. That was the total amount. That
Right.
wasn't just what we budgeted for our share.
No, that was the total that we expected, because we were only looking at doing a small segment of the roof. But once they opened the roof up, what they found was that the underlying elements of the roof were deteriorated to a condition where we couldn't do repairs. There really needed to be a full replacement.
So you've talked to Narragansett and URI, and they're on
Yes.
board? I
Yep.
mean, they're going to be
Yep.
able to pay their share?
They have reserves, that's correct. And again, they go through this, my counterparts for Narragansett URI goes through the same thing that we do here. They've got their capital projects. They run into the same problems that we do.
Okay. Thanks.
Any questions?
The only, there was one other one, the Silver Lake Pump Station, fourth pump, we under budgeted for that too, right? Looks like it was 210 and now it's 290.
That's correct, yeah. And that one, because it's only shared by the university and the town, Narragansett does not contribute to that. That cost is split between South Kingston and the university.
Okay.
Is that the main line that the universities,
Well, all of South Kingston's flow and all the university flow goes through the Silver Lake Pump
goes through
Station.
Silver Lake, okay?
Yep.
That brings us to the Solid Waste Enterprise Fund, if we're through with wastewater. This operation with the Solid Waste Enterprise Fund for the 14-15 year, really, there's three components. One is the cost associated with the staff at the town level that's necessary to manage the contract with the vendor that runs the transfer station on our behalf. In addition to that is the monies that are paid to Rhode Island Resource Recovery for the tipping fee on the residential waste that is brought to that location. Any money that we pay in tip fee is then reimbursed by the vendor that runs the transfer station. The second component is the recycling component, recycling element, where again, we've got a part-time salary and we've got a part-time individual that is responsible for working in the recycling area administratively in terms of dealing with the different program elements. The third component is for us to continue on the closeout of the two Superfund sites. And the major cost items that are there is the debt service associated with the two bonds, one on Rose Hill landfill, and the second bond for the Kingston, West Kingston landfill closeout. The $2 million was borrowed in 2002 for Rose Hill, and $950,000 was borrowed in 2005 for the West Kingston closeout. The $70,500, which is with the Rose Hill maintenance, we are under a consent decree and an agreement with the state of Rhode Island where we agree to pay 30% of what their maintenance costs were that are associated with continued remediation at the Rose Hill site. And what that is the gas collection and burn which occurs at that site. Until those costs disappear, we'll continue to see an annual cost in the $50,000 to $80,000 range. Some years we'll see a spike there if there's outside engineering services that are acquired. But I still think that the deal that we were able to cut with both EPA and the state in dealing with both of those landfills was in both the environmentally our best interest and also our financial best interest. But those are the three components. When you look at page SW6, it provides a listing as to the number of bag tags. Our contract with Waste Services at this point requires them to sell 125,000 tags. Whether they sell it or not, the town gets its rental payment from them, and we use a great deal of the rental income as a means of paying down our cost associated with the landfills. John, you want to speak at all on the operations? And I want to talk about the planned expansion and the renovations that are necessary.
Yeah, part of Waste Hauler's contract with the town is they have to make some capital improvements, and unfortunately, it's been a very long process trying to get permits from DEM. This facility is regulated by the Waste Division. I've had a number of conversations with them as recently as a couple of weeks ago. So as soon as we get permits in hand, they're going to be redoing, I guess for lack of better words, the recycling area, trying to make it more user-friendly, where they'll have a station, at one station, they'll have both a refuse compactor and a compactor for the recyclables. So people don't have to walk back and forth between the two commodities. And they're also going to be adding to the south side of the building an extension to give more capacity in the transfer station building itself. And then lastly, which has been a problem area, up on the north side of the building where the leaf and brush is, that's all going to get a new concrete pad. so we don't have the problem that's been going on there. So hopefully, if we have permits in hand, we're hoping for a March 15 construction start. It doesn't look like that's gonna happen, but they're telling us that once they get the permits, they hope to have everything done this construction season.
I mean, the major problem we have with the transfer station is the size of the lot that we're located on, and the fact that we've got wetlands on a couple of sides. So there's really not a great deal of flexibility in how we can change the traffic routes through that facility, while at the same time trying to keep the facility open, because we've got the truck traffic going in as well as the residential traffic. So I think that the redesign will provide a safer environment and a more efficient use of the space, but it's still, if we had another couple of acres, we could do a far better job as far as separation of the different activities that are occurring at that site.
Steve, how much refuse is brought in from, let's say, outside of Narragansett and South Kingstown? Is there any way to measure? Is that line really tight with the acreage and what's happening?
Yeah, I mean, the waste haulers does have the ability under their contract to bring in out-of-town waste, and they do for commercial. As you may recall, municipal waste by law has to go to central landfill. So anything that's municipal has to go there, but they can seek alternative markets for other waste that comes into the transfer station.
And we also receive a fee for the tonnage that gets passed through our facility. So we gain $1 for every ton that goes through that facility. So it's in our best interest to keep tax dollars away from the debt service and the remediation sites in terms of having that contract in place. But again, it just provides greater traffic in and out of the site, and we really have difficulty separating the different user groups.
Who built the main building? Was that our doing or original contractor?
That was originally built by the town, and we were going to operate that facility. This goes back to 1983, I think it was. We put the facility into place. We even bought the hauling trucks. And at that point, the private sector came to us and said, we can do it cheaper. And so we looked at it, found that it was a viable deal, and found that we could save money if we put it out as a third-party vendor.
How's that food waste oil recycling going? I mean,
Actually, it
remember
actually
we saw the kids from,
It actually
the
goes
students
well.
from
I mean,
Westerly.
it's, received very well. They take a bunch of material out of there a year. I can't, if we have it in here or not. Yeah, it's significant. I was very surprised. It's well
Really?
received, yeah.
So who's bringing the oil over, like restaurants?
Yeah, or no, residents.
Residents?
Yeah, restaurants, usually there's actually value in that, so
Oh, yeah, there's,
typically it's collected by a Baker Commodities or something like that. It's residential.
I had one, I had a restaurant, it was out of Newport, and they would come, they put their own thing, they would come and suck up the oil, and then all of a sudden they get a check for $100.
Oh,
Otherwise, I used to have to pay to have somebody haul it away.
yeah.
Is that Newport Biodiesel?
Yeah, Newport Biodiesel.
That's who they teamed with, I believe, Win. They teamed with Newport Biodiesel.
And who do we have the contract with to pick up recyclables? I mean, on the sidewalk, we have the buckets. Is it just a few
Yeah,
different?
the number has whittled down over time. There's always movement in the solid waste business, people selling out routes to other people. I think we're down to 3 licensed haulers in town, where I think we were up as high as probably 6 or 7 at one point.
Mhm. Do you know who they are, the three?
It's RPE, oh, you're gonna tax my memory now.
Oh, no.
RPE,
That's okay.
Allied, Narragansett Rubbish, I believe. Waste Haulers, who runs the transfer station, they actually sold their routes to RPE a year or so ago.
And they're the only ones who pick up the curbside recyclables, the 3 that you're talking
The
about?
3 that I'm talking about, correct?
Yeah.
We still have enforcement actions pending against a couple that, for whatever reason, they choose not to do what they're supposed to do. So that's still, we're trying to work with them rather than take an enforcement action, but we've got that ability.
How many accounts do they have in town,
Who?
those two?
One's very small, only, let's see, 30 or so. The other one's it's 1,000.
Jesus.
So, I mean, if we tell them tomorrow, stop, then we have 1,000 residents that aren't gonna be too
Right,
happy. So we're
right.
trying to work with those people still to try to get them on board and have them do what they're supposed to do.
I mean, what we don't want to do is to put somebody out of business, yet at the same time, they're refusing to cooperate, because to a degree, what's occurred is it's a niche market where they're doing backyard pickup, and some of the client base will suggest to you that they don't have the means or ability to be able to bring the materials to the curb, and that they don't have the means to do the recycling. So they don't, so they're commingling the regular rubbish with the recyclable materials. We're trying to get that contractor to understand that he's got to have them use two barrels, and that it's illegal for them to continue to put the materials out in that way. His response is, well, I will go out of business if I tell them they have to do this, because they'll find somebody else that will pick it up. And this is the circular argument that we get involved with this. With the two vendors, we've been to court. We've got a court order that can be enforced, where we can actually put them out of business. But that's certainly not the effort we want to take.
Well, is it the customer who's not recycling, or is it the hauler, the trash hauler?
Well, I mean, what we've tried to tell the haulers are, some communities call it no bin, no barrel, that we tell the hauler, the easiest way to deal with it is don't pick up the refuse if they haven't recycled.
Yeah,
And their argument is, well, if I do that, then they're gonna go to somebody else. I said, well, they're playing by the same set of rules that you're supposed to be playing by. It takes the will of them to say, no bin, recycling bin, we're not picking up your refuse. But for whatever reason, they're unwilling to, to me, that's a simple solution.
right.
But it
Well-
means for them that, rather than taking and putting everything on one truck, now they have to have either two separate trucks or two different routes for the same customer, and, they may not want to do that, but that's the regulations.
It is happening, though. I do know that.
I'm sorry?
I said it is happening. I do know that.
Welcome to our world. If there's no questions, we can release John and bring Terry up.
Thank you, John.
Don, you did a great job. You work hard. Thank you.
I'd like to start on page N35, which is the Parks and Recreation Department. And on the detail, will be on page GF 13, GF 13 for the administration. N35, Jim? N35 and GF 13.
Can I never find these stupid things.
I'm with you, Jim. I like it.
GF.
Yeah, I got the GF, but I don't have the
I
N.
like the narrative.
Okay, we're here.
The Recreation Administration, I think council's quite familiar with our breakout here. As far as the Recreation Department, there's 5 segments. 1 is the administration, 2 is the maintenance, 3 is our athletic programs, 4 is our aquatic programs, 5 is the leisure services, and 6 is the creative activities. And there are separate budgets for each one of those components, because the recreation program, more than most, is looking at programs that are revenue-based. We've talked about this a couple of times, both when we dealt with the audit and and when we talk about the revenue stream, what we see in terms of general terms with recreation programs is many of the programs, they pay for themselves, or the programs are not going to be administered. Many times, the Recreation Department will offer a program. If there's not substantive interest in the program will be canceled. So both the expenditure disappears and so too does the revenue. General administration at the $249,000, the only increases that are there are directly related to personnel with the 2% salary increase. There are really no other changes. Again, you're working with a restated budget that incorporates all of the fringe benefit costs associated with that program. The maintenance division, we are seeing an increase here. I mentioned last night that there is one new position that I'm recommending for inclusion, and that recommended position would be the addition of a maintenance technician. It'll be the sixth technician that we would have. If you recall, we had a foreman's position that we did not fund a couple of years ago, and we were trying to cut back. What I want to do is to replace the foreman position with really a tech position. We've got a great deal more work that needs to be done, and we're anticipating that there will be a great deal more work in the future. We're looking at the comfort station coming into place that they'll be responsible for. The future development, hopefully, of the bike path going up to the Commons, the introduction of a trail network at Noyd's Farm. So what we're looking at is to add additional personnel within that department to try to provide the necessary services. Where I'm also recommending that we increase a part-time person from 24 weeks a year to 38 weeks per year. This should give us back to full complement within the Parks maintenance division. What it also is going to do is hopefully get Rex off the road a little bit more and to have him more in a supervisory management role in terms of being able to get done some of the work that is really being done off hours at this point to be able to keep these programs going. I think we have a great deal to be proud of in terms of our community park system and the maintenance level that's provided. We want to see that we can do a better job as far as maintenance on some of the flower bed areas, yet at the same time we see expanded demands coming on that department. We can't continue to meet those demands unless we look at the expansion. I mentioned to you that the cost of that additional position plus benefits was between $52,000 and $56,000. And that has been incorporated into the parks maintenance budget. So it's over 50% of the cost of increase that we're looking at. Other increases that are here are agricultural supplies. We're looking at an increase of about $4,200. We're also looking at increases in different HVAC materials and parts. One of the other things I want the maintenance division to be looking at this year is how do we deal with the reduction in water use that's necessary at Succotash Park. At this point, we're using potable water, and the projected cost, if we use the existing rate structure that we're considering, would be probably in the area of over $12,000 to $15,000 if it was used to the extent it has been in some past years. This has to stop. We need to either look at the installation of a well and that could be used for watering purposes, or we need to drastically reduce the amount of irrigation that's using that water supply. So that's one of the tasks that we'll be looking at.
The two fields you're talking about, the soccer field, Little League field with the...
This is for the soccer fields, for the irrigation on those fields, and the baseball field that's there. So, I mean, we need to look at that. I mean, in the Matunic area, I'm not sure why we're using that much water, but that's something that I'm asking for additional information on after I saw that we were one of the largest water users within the entire South Shore water system.
What is that in comparison to what they use at the Tuckertown soccer fields? Do they do irrigation there? I'm not quite sure.
At Tuckertown, correct.
That's all wells. We have our own wells at that location.
Okay.
And, you know, we can separate the domestic use, for the water fountains and we can have the domestic supply come in potable water. But what I'm looking at is what's the cost of installing a well there and a pump system as a means of dealing with that? Or is there a way that we can continue to use that water, but do it in a more frugal manner and have less frequency on the watering of those fields? Again, all of our fields are heavily used. So if we've got dry periods during the summer without the irrigation, those areas are going to burn and have to be replanted. So the irrigation is necessary. The question is, how can we do it better? And that's something that we'll be looking at the department to address in the coming year. You've got budgeted there about $11,600. With the fee increases, it could exceed $15,000. Because once we go to since they're using the water for irrigation purposes only during the 3 months of the summer, they'd exceed the 1,250 cubic feet. So, and certainly they're exceeding the 5,000 cubic feet anyway, so it doesn't end just there. Anything you need to comment on with the department?
No, just that I think Steve really explained the need for the additional personnel in order to keep up with the additional facilities that we have currently and also are expecting within the next 2 years timeframe.
Have you passed out the sheets as far as the athletics program? Do you have the sheets? The council has the sheets, Colleen? Last night, there was a question relative to what is within the athletics program, what's within the leisure services program. So what I asked Terry to provide me today is the sheets. When we prepare the budget, we look at all of the different programs. So the first sheet I want you to take a look at is entitled Recreation Athletics, and it's a summary. This shows you what the revenue sources are for each of the programs. So when you look across, the first column shows the sport camps. We're going to collect $47,000 in fees, as well as $7,000 in materials, or $54,000. Our cost is about $44,875. That's for hiring the students that run that program on our behalf. You've got your skateboard camp is not being run or proposed to be run during the 14-15 year. You can see what tennis or the youth basketball, travel teams, instructional leagues. These are the different programs that are being run for a total program of $275,000. As you can see, if all those programs are run, that we will have a profit of about $3,900. So we'll take in revenue the $3,900 more than what our expense statement will be. Now, obviously, as I had said the other night, is that if there are programs where we don't see the activity and we cancel the program, it would reduce the revenue and it would reduce the expenditure. But these are the programs that are run through athletics at this point. Do you need to address any of those?
None specifically, but to address Meg's question from last night, the reduction for this particular budget is not related to any programmatic cuts. It's related to some adjustments in seasonal salaries and professional services. Specifically for this year, we've reduced it happens to be the men's over 35 basketball program, which is quite popular in this town. We've reduced officiating fees. We've reduced it from 2 to 1 referees and from 2 to 1 scorekeepers. So that has,
Great, that's great.
provided some savings. We base our estimates, program estimates, on historical data, and the past 3 years, we've just made some adjustments for those programs.
Terry, we don't have Little League? Who runs the Little League?
We do not. Little League is a separate entity. We provide the facilities for Little League. They have their own board, and it's run separately.
Same with some of the other leagues as well, the soccer league, lacrosse.
Right,
What's the name of
exactly.
it? Oh, so I always thought that was part of,
We work hand in hand with the leagues
The
in
program.
providing the facilities and the field prep, and they operate their own registration, and they have their own bylaws, and
mhm.
So there are a bunch of these, soccer, lacrosse, I think was mentioned.
yes, exactly. They were all standalone organizations with their own board of directors.
And how did you think it worked out this year with the Waves coming in, taking over space? It seemed to work out with,
We would not have made that decision with regard to the Waves renting Old Mountain Field if we didn't have the capacity with ball fields. It worked out fine. The impact was negligible in terms of we didn't displace any Babe Ruth or Senior Little League, which would have utilized the Old Mountain Field
yeah,
baseball
it seemed
field.
to be really smooth. Apparently it seemed smooth.
They got some improvements to
And
Old
we,
Mountain
and
Field.
that generated revenue
Yeah.
as a field rental.
And Terry, where does some surfing and this sailing, where the
The
aquatics fall
the-
under
the surf program falls under the aquatics budget, so you'll see that, actually, that's the next budget.
Okay.
Mhm.
If you want, we can move right on to aquatics.
Okay.
The aquatics really has two separate program components. One is the beach program itself, where you can see we're projecting revenues of $95,070 and a cost of $101,000 to run the program. So we're short $6,437. However, when you look at the aquatic programs, self-supporting activities, that would be where the surf program is, I believe. And are we still doing the swim program as well, or just the,
Surf, and we've done skimboard, no swimming program.
so you've got those two programs. We make money on those programs for about $6,800, so the net loss on the aquatics program would be $1,500. The next group, yep.
Sorry, all these summer programs, how many new hirees do we bring in?
Between camps and the beach program, I'm going to estimate about 40 seasonal employees, camp counselors,
A lot
lifeguards,
of local
beach
kids,
staff.
or do we?
primarily locals. When we vet the applicants, residency is taken into consideration.
And are we involved with any of this federal money? Are we involved with the new minimum wage, the $10.10? Does that have any play in this?
Not yet. There-
No,
that
we
hasn't
haven't.
been.
That's for contracted federal workers at this point.
Trying to think of what the rates were that we had that, I mean, our lifeguards are going to be paid more than that.
Yeah, I was going to say, when I
Yeah,
saw
we-
the pay scales last year, it's a whole range of scales. Not everybody's paid minimum wage. It's,
Yeah, you look at.
It is.
It's
We
on the
have-
website, yeah.
We determine pay rates based on how long someone's been with the department, the different positions, lifeguard captains versus a lifeguard versus a beach maintenance employee. So there's a range of hourly compensation.
Those 40 new employees are pretty much guaranteed summer employment, 8 weeks, 9, 10 weeks, or some of these programs are only 2
Some of them
weeks?
are longer, but 10 weeks typically is the summertime schedule, and we have the longer seasonal positions for parks.
And if we have good experience with somebody in the first year, certainly we'll bring them back for the second year if they're interested in coming back. So there is quite a bit of repeat, particularly with the lifeguard crew that we operate with. Leisure services, you've got another sheet on that that shows all of those different programs. Leisure service is the area which really costs money, where tax dollars are brought into the program. You've got no concerts are scheduled in the budget, been approved through the Recreation Commission. Certainly the 4th of July program is the $25,007 is the cost associated with the fireworks themselves. There are many other contributions that are made toward that program from different local people that participate with that, whether it's the banks or different businesses in town that act as partners with us. The various classes, the Discovery Camp and the Leisure and the Adventure Camp are the summer programs. They are not daycare programs, but they are the park counselor programs that the town offers. You can see the Discovery Camp in and by itself costs about $74,000, where we're generating around $72,000. So we're short there of about $2,000. Other programs that are, for the most part, free programs is the Easter egg hunt, the Children's Fest, Earth Day. We also operate the Nature Center through this program, through Leisure Services. Overall, the cost is about $142,000, of which only $120,000 is coming from receipts from the program. So this is part of our tax dollars going into the program.
What would the professional services be, say, like on the Easter egg hunt?
So we hire entertainment to come in and
okay.
perform for the
Easter
Easter Bunny breakfast
Oh.
and the Easter Bunny.
And is that the
They-
Easter Bunny
those are
salary, the
professionals, by the way.
$350?
I hope the kids aren't listening.
I'm just wondering what they were, but thank you, that makes sense.
Jim wants to apply.
Gotta buy the eggs, you know?
What I would point out under the concert category is that this year, the concerts that are being scheduled will be within the Guild budget because they are being held at, on the Village Green.
Oh,
So that's, in past, we've split them sometimes between Marina Park and the Village Green, but we seem to have a better attendance.
Are the food trucks going to come back this year?
We are proposing that for, and again, that this is under the Marina Park activities, that potentially food trucks will come in for 4 movie nights,
Oh, good,
family movie nights outdoors at Marina Park.
nice.
But you said there were no concerts scheduled. Does that include the Wakefield Civic Band that played there for a month or so?
They will still be performing at Marina Park as they do every year. They do it as a community service, and there's no charge to the town.
Any other questions on leisure service programming? If
No,
not,
I'm just impressed about the amount of income you take in, even though there's a slight loss. The Discovery Camp income, that seems like a very viable asset that needs to.
We do, and the fees for those programs are quite affordable. I don't think most communities are continuing with the park day camp programs. And of course,
That's
there's
cute. I
the
think that's great.
assistance through the Friends Scholarship program that helps cover some of those costs as well.
the last area of the program is on the Stepping Stone program. And I think you're all familiar with the Stepping Stone building. It was the Stepping Stone Kindergarten. We now have community classes that are operated there. First Safety is really where we take the preschoolers and show them how to safely use buses and that type of thing. There's also a preschool program. That is a licensed program with the state, with a certified teacher. as well as the facility management that's required for maintenance of the facility and the cost associated with upkeep of the building. Stepping Stone will continue to cost tax dollars in the long run for us to be able to continue the program and still keep the program for the preschool affordable. Anything of note that we need to talk about with Stepping Stone?
No, we will continue to maintain licensure and promote the program within the community. There is some, within the coming years, there's the concern for how the whole preschool structure within the town will operate. The school department has their program running at South Road School, but for the next couple of years, we see no issue with maintaining a certain level of students in the program, 3- and 4-year-olds.
The meetings that the superintendent held with the local preschools in the area, did Stepping Stones partake in those meetings?
Yes, yes, and they have periodic meetings and professional development programs and kind of sharing best practices, so yes, we're involved with that.
Terry, how many students do we enroll per year, or? I mean, this is
We
a
budget
yearly-
for, let's see,
You have like morning and afternoon, right?
20 4-year-old participants. It's a maximum of 20 per class.
Mm-hmm.
18 for the 3- and 4-year-old program, and 18 students for the 3-year-old program. We have a maximum of 20, but based on our participation rates over the past couple of years, that's what we're budgeting for.
Oh, a
for
maximum of
14,
20? For the whole
15.
year?
Yes, it's year-long, just like the school
But
department.
isn't it
we
like a
have
morning class and an afternoon class?
We do, yes. So
Yeah.
we have
So we have two
an
different
AM
groups.
4-year-old program,
Mhm.
and then on Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, an afternoon 3- and 4-year-old program.
Oh.
And on Wednesdays and Fridays, a 3-year-old program.
So you have 24-year-olds, 18 3- and 4-year-olds, and then 18 3-year-olds.
Right.
Okay, good.
And is this all means-based, free, or?
No, we charge a weekly fee. There's no sliding scale at this point.
That's been around a long time, because my son went to Stepping Stone, so, 2 years. Well, he's 21 now.
Okay, if there's no questions on that, we can move to the tab on the Peacedale office building. I'll make this short. The town acquired the Peacedale office building, agreed that we would keep the museum in perpetuity on a rent-free basis. We do now rent additional space to the museum. There are 9 private sector rentals within that building, ranging from about $350 a month in rent up to $1,900. The overall rent income comes in is projected at $85,823. That's what's under lease today. Our leases, for the most part, are 2 to 3 years in nature. Most of the leases will be expiring in either 15 or 16. I think there's one that's left that will expire this year. In addition to having the building in private sector rental at this point, we also use a portion of the building for programs. Right now, the programs that are being offered there range from karate to aerobics, to dances, performing arts, and yoga. Those are generating about $13,500 in income for rental of that type of space. The budget also includes the cost of maintenance and operation of the building. The overall cost for next year is projected at $92,119, or $342 more than current year. If you look at the bottom line on PDOB page 3, you'll see that we're looking at a fund balance that started as of the June 30th, 2013 at approximately $275,000, and we're anticipating that based on what's projected in the 13-14 year and for 14-15, that we'll see that appreciate up to about $290,000. That money is held in retained earnings and is then used for capital facility improvements at the building itself. I think anyone who has looked at the building since the time that we acquired it in the mid-1980s, we have replaced heating systems, electrical systems, windows, roofs, and done interior improvements on the building. And it is a component of the town's holdings, historical holdings in Peacedale, where we've got our library, Peacedale office building, Stepping Stone School, and the neighborhood guild. So it's part of an area that will look the same, hopefully, 100 years from now, just as it looked 100 years previously. And with that in town ownership, we can continue to maintain and preserve it. As we look forward, as the intent was to generate enough money to reconstruct the building, and then to look at whether or not we wanted to keep that in a private sector use, and whether or not it could then be developed into a music center for music lessons, for the yoga, those type of activities, as they outgrew the space available within the guild. At this point, the guild continues to provide adequate space for those services with the overflow that's at PDOB, but at this point, there's not a necessity for us to free up additional space or to take it out of the private sector leasing at this time. So we are anticipating continuing with keeping the 9 private rental agreements that we have in place at least through the 2016 year. Any questions? If there's not,
Steve, excuse me, we once studied the idea of an elevator there. Where did that go?
the problem with the elevator, Jim, is that if you put an elevator in on a building that's really a granite-faced building, where do you put it, and at the same time not displace many of the tenants? Because the elevator would have to be on an exterior wall, and that exterior wall would then have to open on each floor and take out existing lease space. So at this point, we've looked at it, but we have not really come up with a recommendation on how we could put an elevator in and still not take from the historical integrity of the building. If there's no questions, we can move on to the Guild. Once again, the programs that are operated within the Guild, if you go to page 4 of the narrative, you'll see the budget detail. The first component of the Guild expenditure statement is the operation of the building. The operation of the building and the cost associated with debt service will amount to $510,147. That's inclusive of the full-time personnel that are working in programs as well as part-time, and all costs associated with their benefits and the cost of upkeep on the building. In the Guild program, just as in the Town Rec program, what we attempt to do is to isolate our costs based on the different program activities. On page 5 of the detail, you'll see that front desk, this is really the intake of people into the building itself. We expect to have the front desk cost about $35,928 next year. For the most part, it's salary for the part-time positions. for the greeters at the desk and to control and know who's in the building. We also buy the materials in the front hall, in the front deck for the soda machine, and the soda machine generates revenue that you'll see in the revenue statement. Terry also provided copies on the Guild of the different program activities in each of the different areas. So you've got the seniors program, which is detailed at the $42,099. Terry, I don't know if you want to walk through any of those program activities?
Sure. So the senior program at 42,099 really encompasses the trip program that we have had at the Guild for many years. We base our budget projections on the past 3 years. It has fluctuated. Last year, we leveled it off a bit with a bit of a drop in the budget. We had some overnight senior trips that were planned in previous years that were not getting responses. There was simply because of the economy, we had less of a draw. So we've adjusted our budget to reflect day trips, a couple of overnight trips for the coming year. Pretty steady with last year's budget, so there's not much of a change there. If you'd like to move on to the youth budget, we're budgeting $39,648, which is reflecting a $5,558 increase. You'll notice that in the professional services line, community education, those are basic classes that we run at the Guild for youth and teen programs, some of our art classes, babysitting classes, general education programs. We've seen a bit of an increase, uptick in those programming areas, so we are projecting that increase in that expenditure line, and that is primarily for independent contractors that come in and run programs. If there's no questions, the music program is, we are projecting an $88,197 budget for 14-15. The increase in this program, the part-time salary line is up by $2,040. That's an adjustment made to the coordinator's salary to keep in line with our other program coordinators and to have a standard in terms of those particular. We have an art coordinator, we have a music coordinator, that they're fair and balanced. We are also projecting a $1,500 budget for our recreation equipment. We required dollies for the pianos within the Guild. This way they can be moved without having to tune them every time they are moved for floor maintenance or any other reason. So that's what that $1,500 is for. If there's no question on the music expenses, we have the adults program budgeted at $4,444, a $2,700 increase. Again, that's in the professional services line. We are projecting some new programs. We've had a revival of some of our long-standing programs as well, and that's reflective in that $2,700 increase. The arts program budget is $56,041, very minor increase, essentially for seasonal salaries. That is our art coordinator, and a minor decrease in professional services.
Again, just to refresh, the Guild operates without any tax dollars. The Guild also, in its revenue statement, is obtaining money from the Guild Trust Fund. We're projecting use of $373,263 in the 2014 year. That's up about $5,300 over what the current year need was. We use that as the balancing act in terms of net of revenue to our expenses, and that's how much we need to put in. We use reinvested income to pay the debt service and for any capital improvements. I do want to note that we've got an emergency project that I've given authorization to proceed, which is for the front entry to the Guild building. We're looking at a cost of around $25,000. This was a component of the project that we were looking at with the bonding in 2 years. However, based on the condition of that staircase area at this point, we felt that we need to break that project out separately and get that done in the immediate future. There are certainly sufficient dollars available within our retained earnings and trust fund dollars that can be advanced for that type of an improvement. Terry, you want to talk about what specifically you're going to be replacing?
Sure. The, if you recall, at the Guild, the front stairway has 2 access points. One side, the east side, is closed off at this point just because of the deterioration over this past winter in particular. It's been deteriorating over the past few years, but with the freezing and thawing pattern this year, we were hoping we could get another year out of the staircase, but it's just not to be. The front stone facade is detaching from the concrete staircase, causing the handrail to come detached. What we're going out to bid for is a new staircase that's granite, in line with the staircase that leads down to the pedestrian bridge at the Village Green. It flows straight out from the front doors rather than 2 side staircases. We're hoping to be able to do that, go out to bid immediately, and have that project started late spring.
What did we ever do with that door on the side of the building? Didn't it get broken into a few years ago? Was it the Guild?
We had a break-in over the summertime, but that was not,
Was it that side door in the back over near the gym? Wasn't there something over there?
Yes, Steve.
It was the lighting.
actually, the incident over the summer was actually through a window. They removed an air conditioning unit and came in through the basement level up the stairs. I'm not familiar with the side door.
Maybe that was it. I thought it was a side door or something and lighting.
I thought it was lighting, which I recall, Carol, that side door had no, it was going to be a motion light or something.
We do have that as a result of looking at our security system. After that particular incident, we upgraded the internal motion detector system and also added a motion-sensitive light on the back side of the Guild building.
How about cameras on the inside?
We do not currently have a video system. The motion detectors now will pick up on every floor and are positioned to catch movement in every corner of the building.
So people went after hours.
Oh, this
You'll be
is
in
the
trouble.
Guild.
You know, they'll police
They
it.
do it at the Peacedale office building, catch you when they're after hours.
I'm working.
I think that completes what we were going to review this evening. What's that?
Senior
Oh,
services.
forget about the senior budget.
Accept that as is, I'm fine with that.
I've spent too much time with Terry today.
You know, how long is her job description, 100 pages?
That's right. What
Uh,
does she run?
I will say it's most likely going to get much longer. On page S1 of the senior budget is presented. We're looking at an $805,000 program for the 2014-15 year. It's up $22,000. The town's contribution to the program is $378,000. We will continue to operate 4 separate and distinct programs. One is the Senior Transportation Program, which provides for non-emergency or medical transportation for our senior population. If you look at page S5, S5 shows what the past experience has been with the program, where we're looking at total unduplicated individual residents 60 years or older, that we're servicing a predicted 165 unduplicated individuals, and we're providing ridership around about 238 per month, and logging about 84 miles a day. We're not seeing any changes or projected changes in that program because it really is, for the most part, maxed out. With the size of the community that we're dealing with, to be able to get out to West Kingston, to get to Matunic, to get back into town on different days, what we do is we set up schedules, and by appointment, we're able to get those services provided for the resident. We've got one full-time driver with one active bus. We have a backup bus, which is only used when the primary bus is out for services. We have a part-time driver as well that will take over if the primary is out sick or on vacation. This is totally supported through property taxes. There is no revenues that are going to come into that program other than a small state grant of approximately $2,400. We also have some miscellaneous revenues that are coming in, which is trying to capture monies from the rider itself as far as a token amount, just to recognize the fact that there is a service being provided. What's the rate that we're charging at this point?
We are charging 50 cents for one way, so a round trip of $1.
And we don't make change.
We don't make change, or we
I'm gonna
will,
start using that.
or we will charge
Does that include accept tips?
no tip. No, they don't accept tips. Or for a $10 pass, they can get the equivalent 21-way rides over the course of however long it, lasts someone. It's not much, but it gives us a little bit of something. It doesn't preclude anyone from being able to ride the van if they are residents and over 60. If there is an income issue, that's addressed.
The other program participants that are here, and I think it's important to point out, we got an $805,000 program that Narragansett's contributing $115,000 roughly, and North Kingstown is contributing toward the Adult Day Services program for about $31,000. State program money that comes in is well, it's state and federal money, is about $61,000. That comes in, and there's also another $112,000 in reimbursement on the Adult Day program that comes through state Medicare, Medicare dollars, Medicaid dollars. So it's a program that really is shared among 3 communities, and also that we're looking for supports on from the state or federal government if possible. The second program, which is the Senior Nutrition Program, is listed on the detail on page S12. In the narrative itself, there's an explanation on that program starting on page S6. I was at the Senior Center this afternoon for the luncheon, and we met with the head of State Department of Elderly Affairs and Senior Programs, as well as her staff and members of West Bay that provides the food services for us. They were delighted to be with us. They told us that we had the best meal site in the state, had one of the greatest participation rates of their centers, and that they were overly impressed with the quality and the scope of programs that are being offered to our senior population. So I think it's something that Terry and Karen can certainly be proud of in terms of the accolades that we heard this afternoon during that luncheon. The nutrition program receives support through the town of Narragansett. If you look on page S7, you see that the program cost is $111,780. What we look at is the program participation. 72% of the meals that we're serving are for South Kingstown residents and 27% are for Narragansett residents. Based on that proportionality, Narragansett contributes the $29,372 to that program. And we also have a good deal of participation in our senior programs, educational programs, with our residents from Narragansett, who also contribute toward the senior center proper. You can see the number of meals that are being served on an average basis. There's over 39,757 meals, and the meals that are being served are based on nutritionists for elderly programming, on the types of foods that are being served on a day-to-day basis, and also provides a great deal of camaraderie for the people who come on a daily basis. They're serving about over 200 people on some days. And the center also serves as a drop-off spot for the Meals on Wheels program that services both Narragansett and South Kingstown. So it's a busy center and has a great deal of program activities. The third program element is our adult day services, and that shows on page S8. The adult day services operates out of our adult day building located on Old Post Road. After the addition to our facility, we continue to have a robust program. Our problem with adult day services is that we're having difficulty maintaining the 17 to 19 clients per day that we need to really be economically viable. The costs on our program are approximately $96 a day, and what we're finding is that it costs us $96.81 per day per client. When we look at the reimbursement that we're getting through Medicaid and the state, we're getting $52.98. If the people are of lesser means, that $52 is all we're going to be able to collect. So we have to subsidize that through local dollars, either from South Kingstown, Narragansett, or from North Kingstown. So if we can't get our numbers up to the 17 to 19 range, what's going to occur is that we're going to see that the local share is going to have to continue to increase. Or what we're going to have to do is to continue to reduce staffing levels within the program. Once you start reducing staffing levels, because for us to have a certified program, we have to have specific types of occupation within that building. We have to have certified nurses. We have to have nutritionists. We have to have staff that for program activities. So if we can't keep the proper client base in place, our costs are going to continue to escalate here. We are hoping to develop additional outreach programs to reach families that may need this type of respite care service available to them. However, we normally will see a reduction in enrollment in the January, February, March period of time, and we'll usually see some increases in the summer months. But we need to try to provide greater consistency year-round. One, so that we can keep a really qualified staff, and two, so that we can afford the program that we need to run. We're not giving up on the program in any form or fashion, but we're saying to you that we need to do more outreach to be able to get more families involved in this program. I think the recession has also had an impact on the number of days that a client will participate in the program. Instead of 5, they may cut down to 3. But what that does is we still have the overhead costs during the days that we have down membership. So it's something that we will continue to work with. But of the 4 programs that we operate, this is the program that we've got to have the most focus on over the next 12 months.
So what does the client pay per day? Is this $24.90? Is that what you're receiving? What is that amount at the bottom?
No, that is what the average copay would be from a client. The average.
So that's what they're actually paying out of pocket?
Some. It depends
Oh.
on what, there's tiered levels of copay. We're reimbursed $52.98 through Medicare for some clients. Private pay clients will pay a full $58 a day if they are from one of the participating 3 communities, North Kingstown, Narragansett, or South Kingstown. Occasionally, we have clients who are from outside of the 3 towns that support the program. Those clients are charged $82 a day. That's not an unusual amount based on the industry across the state of Rhode Island. But we do, primarily our clients are Medicare or Medicaid eligible. So they're low to mod income. So we don't get a lot of the private pays, which would pay the full rate of $58 a day or $82 a day.
Why the shortfall here? I know outreach is going to reach a lot of these folks, but what do you account for the shortfall of
One
participants?
of the reasons has to do with the frailty of our clients, that we have, it fluctuates in terms of just their health. We have people who end up having to, for whatever reason, go into rehab, so they're in a nursing home for a temporary time period. We, in the past and currently, we try to save their spot within the daycare so that they can come back, transition back into the daycare environment immediately after being released from rehab or a hospital or from an illness. We've noticed that our clientele is now older. The average age is going up, and the stays are more short-term than in the past. But we're hoping to kind of raise awareness of the program itself and hopefully get people to understand that, you know, when their loved one is at a certain point of mid to late stage dementia, it's almost too late for the day care option.
It seems like incredible value, no matter what the contribution is. I mean, that's incredible value for all day care, with all the services.
I would agree, yeah.
Yeah.
Boy.
Do you ever have trouble with the person themselves not really being shy about wanting to be there, and that
Yes.
they have to overcome this after like a few days?
We have people that are, that come on a trial basis.
So they don't
and,
really want to go, but the custodial
yes.
relative doesn't want them to stay home alone, so you have
Right.
to like work them into the situation.
Exactly, and that's where our case manager is critical in kind of meeting with the family, discussing it with not only the loved ones, but the client themselves. And
Yeah.
sometimes there's some coaxing and,
Right. I can
to
imagine
get
that would be a
people-
hurdle at times,
It's a challenge for a lot of the folks who come
for
through.
the
yeah.
family and for the
Right,
the facility and the
Right.
staff.
One of the things that Terry mentioned, and I think it's important, when you look at page S8, and you see where the client days are coming from by community, and you see where, you've got the 2012-13 South Kingstown days 1,312, Narragansett 997, North Kingstown 564, and you see other, the 567. Last year, we sent letters to the surrounding communities that had clients that were coming to our services and asked them for a general donation to contribute and offset the cost of their clients. We did not receive any responses at all from those letters that we sent out. So, I mean, you know, the communities will remain nameless, but there's certainly neighboring communities that are not interested. So I give a lot of respect to both Narragansett and North Kingstown that have stepped up. And the way we establish billing for the 13-14 year and for 14-15 is that we don't go based on the client days just from the prior year. We go back and we look at the prior 4 years of experience and take a 4-year number of client days so that we're not going to see spikes. Because if we have somebody from a community that comes 5 days a week, every single week, you end up with a lot of days for that community. If that person leaves the following year, you may have a big drop. So we don't want to do is say to Narragansett, we want $30,000 from you this year, next year we want $10,000, the following year 40. So what we've tried to do is, by taking a longer look, to say, over that 4-year period, if you have less in 2 years and more in 2 years, it'll average out so that there's no spikes in what we're asking for contributions on a yearly basis. And as you can see, in next year's proposal, what we're looking at is that because North Kingstown would see a reduction of $5,600 because their proportionate share over that 4-year term is down to 26.8%. But when we look at having 11,244 days that are from our 3 communities, you've still got 3,114 days that are from neighboring communities that are non-participating. It would be great for us to be able to get those communities to actively participate, because if they did, it would make that program a lot more efficient for each of the contributions from Narragansett, South Kingstown, and from North Kingstown. But you know, when we run an adult day services program, we're running a program that has no geographic boundaries. We are to take the client based on who comes through the door looking for the service because of the reimbursement that we're receiving through the state government. So we are going to take in people that we're not going to see any contribution from the municipality. But we will continue to send letters to those communities asking for some type of consideration. But so far that has not bore fruit for us.
Steve, the only question that I had, and it was probably stated, but I missed it, is the 5,000 in North Kingstown, the 5,677, decline from North Kingstown, that's all with the adult daycare.
Yeah, all of our programs, they're isolated. This is only the cost associated with adult day services, and that is what their proportionate share would be. One of the other things that I think we saw was that the transportation changes that occurred for public transportation may have also impacted us as far as the North Kingstown services. And once those were no longer available for transportation to these type of service programs, it made it much more difficult for somebody in the outlying areas to be able to get their mother or father to this site. So that also has added to the difficulty. What's concerning is that if our objective as a community is to keep our older population in their homes for as long as possible and keep them out of nursing homes or out of assisted care, this is a viable means of doing that. Yet, at the same time, we need to have better reimbursements available through both the state and also better participation with surrounding communities. that are benefiting from the service that we as a community are providing on their behalf.
Steve, the only other comment that I want to make is, and I brought it up before, with the transportation for our youthful population that has a disability eligible for Medicaid and Medicare, and it came up again when I was at the Easter Seals fundraiser Saturday night down at Mary Haversham's, and there were a group of parents of, youthful population that have disabled children that were looking for, some transportation. So I'm not sure if, one mother in particular asked for possibly a meeting, with the town. I'm not sure that's the route to go, or, so if down the line you could further guide me to guide these parents in the right direction, you can let me know.
I think the real question comes down, El, is to what are we to provide for municipal services? And, the town council years ago identified senior services as something that was lacking in the community and directed us to establish programming for that purpose. If we're going to look to provide additional services, it would require a totally expanded program in terms of transportation that we're doing now. And I'm not sure that we would even mix existing populations, differing populations. So I think that if you were looking for those type of services, you'd have to look at a mirror image of what you have on the program that we're currently running for transportation. So, that cost would be probably in the area of $70,000. Plus, you'd have to add to that the cost of about $120,000 on a 10-year schedule for the purchase of a vehicle. So I would say that you're probably looking somewhere in the area, effective cost of around $80,000 a year that would have to be committed to that type of an endeavor. Administratively, we could accommodate that through existing sources, but direct cost would be in the area of $80,000 with an upfront cost on the $120,000 for a vehicle acquisition, and an operating expense of somewhere in the area of $70,000 to $75,000.
Right, and I think what some of the discussion, at this fundraiser with Easter Seals on Saturday was, even if the elderly population is paying $1, this could be a cost revenue. If there were, a few slots open for people to ride, they would be willing to pay, more money, like $4 or $5. I think that some of the state reimbursements for transportation is like $4.66 or something like that. And maybe it's just more educating some of the families about the flex, which I think is $1, and we'll pick them up if they're 1 mile from a bus route. So maybe it's just a matter of educating, but if you can guide me to give some of these families some guidance, I would appreciate it.
I think the first step that we would look to is to get somebody in from RIPTA to talk about the Flex program and how that specific population could be better integrated into that. I think that RIPTA's new board of directors has really taken on a new role in terms of trying to understand what the transportation needs are within the state, and possibly if we can bring somebody down for that purpose, they could meet with these individuals.
Okay.
Steve, I think we have, if I'm not mistaken, is RIPTA coming, Karen?
March 27th.
On March 27th to issue bus passes. So at that time, we will see if that representative can also speak to the services of the Flex and ADA.
And it's my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, in order to get the Flex, they don't, people do not have to fill out a RIPTA application. I don't know if that's true. No RIPTA application.
Like taxi service, you call the ride program and they set up an appointment, but you have to be, there's 2 routes in our area, one for South Kingstown and one for Narragansett. We're in the Narragansett route for some reason. and they will provide door-to-door service. But if you're like in the Green Hill area, that's too outlying for them.
Right.
Anything pretty much, probably your town, all that area, you are right here in all places like that.
Right. And, you know, the work that I do, you know, all volunteer work, I do a lot of work for people with disabilities, educational advocate, and we do have a very, I think it's probably about 25, 26 right now in that Green Hill area that is sitting home, not able to get anywhere, parents working. It's a very difficult situation. But I'll pass this along with that date with March 27th, and I'm going to try to facilitate some type of a meeting, so, thank you.
Are these adult children we're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know that they're paying right now through Division of Developmental monies that they're receiving, drivers, you know, which is anywhere from $15 an hour, and a lot of money is being expended on drivers being hired, whereas if there was some way that we could pay the town less than the $15, I thought maybe it could be a win-win for both. So, just a conversation. I'm going to keep bringing it up until I no longer sit at this table. So, and maybe I'll even be bringing it up at the microphone when I no longer sit at this table. But anyways, I think that, are there any other matters of interest or concern? And any comments from the public? And just to thank the staff, I mean, Steve said it so eloquently last night with how things run seamlessly with the collaboration of the staff, and, you know, looking at the staff here tonight and speaking, and those that have sat and done all of the work behind closed doors, you know, this town council thanks you. You are forever indebted to us. We are indebted to you. So I'm not going to, go through any of the recaps tonight, but looking at some of the department heads, you really do have a lot on your plate. You know, it's, and what John deals with, and we truly thank you. And Steve, our hat's off to you. It's, you keep everything working together, so
Yeah, we're
thank you.
never going to let you retire.
My staff doesn't have plates, they have platters.
So with that said, we have a motion to adjourn, please.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.